I watch episode 43 of Pokemon every year because I watch every episode of Pokemon every year. In episode 43, Wake Up Snorlax, Nobody is Woke. Dawdling down a dirt path, Ash and friends delight in another drifter's diatonic performance. The Pied Piper perks up Pikachu and asks for payment in the form of food products. Some actual dough. The unhoused elder puts the pan in Panhandler, but all that they have to share is their own struggle with starvation. Failing to steal candy from babies, the busker basks on his boulder and bids them adieu. Onward with empty stomachs, Ash and friends enter another incorporated township. Trailing them on the trail, the villains don't vibe with the vagabond either. Unaffected by his undulating, the cruel crew offer no compensation aside from criticisms of his composition. Whether he inspires adoration or apathy, the artist gets nothing in return. Again aware of their asuriance, Ash and friends approach a bread restaurant, but it is barren of all buns and biscuits, and the trio is turned away with empty tummies. They encounter another elderly man with an abundance of facial hair who promises them tasty treats if they follow him to his home. The massive mustached man is the mayor of the municipality, who has been hoarding the meager amount of food remaining in the hamlet, a bounty that they don't think to share with anyone else. As they nosh on nutrients, the political leader dumps the trauma of the town's dire dysfunction on the preteens. 2 weeks ago, they lost access to their streaming service and the crops dried up. So far, the only thing that they've done about it is make cute signs for the local failing businesses. No one has gone to the source of the river because they all fear the unknown more than they fear hunger. Their leader also denies climate change because he isn't directly affected by it. Ash and friends take it upon themselves to solve another community's problems. In minutes, they accomplish more than anyone else has in the last 14 days. They find the overgrown briar patch and enter the environmental hazard in short-sleeve shirts. They bleed for a town that they don't even know the name of. Scarred by the spiny shrubs, they make it through the thorns and encounter the next snag, a Snorlax, the snoring and laxing Pokemon. The big-bellied behemoth blocks the brook from babbling. Snorlax's enormousness only ever exists as an obstacle to be overcome. Ash and friends attempt to wake Snorlax through various means that are very mean. As their failures to move the monster continue to mount, the malevolent Muppets arrive, offering to help them by stealing the beast. Ash and friends succumb to moral relativism and they team up with the terrorists, which historically has never gone well. Their teamwork only makes Snorlax's dreams work. After more failures, they resort to recreating fables, recalling the story of Sleeping Beauty, who in their interpretation is the original version of Jinx. Their attempts to curb the creature's kip non-consensually cause only discomfort to the drowsy damsel. As Snorlax shifts in its slumber, they spot a Do Not Disturb tag stuck beneath the beast with instructions for its awakening. They just needed the power of music. Brock conveniently remembers this well-known waking method after Snorlax was needlessly assaulted. Ash's Pokédex also knew about this Poke fact about Poke Flutes, but didn't share it either until after they already knew. Ash and friends and enemies of enemies try to force the hippie to help, but their opposing ideologies break up the band and they fall back to their pattern of physical violence. threats. Pidgeotto easily defeats its natural prey, and Ash and friends escort the starving artist back to the Sleepy Hollow, where the Trilling Toonsmith reveals that Snorlax belongs to him. They be scamming. The free-thinking nonconformist blows his literal dog whistle to make Snorlax woke. Arisen from its rest, the river still doesn't run. The mouth of the river is still as dry as my mouth. Snorlax was sleeping on more thorns that are also its food source. The herbivore vores the herbs, and the water flows again. Ash and friends return to the unnamed mayor of the unnamed town, sharing credit with Snorlax, but not with the unnamed musician who owned it. As they enjoy the live stream, the authority figure decides to hold a banquet, depleting their already limited food reserves before any new crops can even be harvested. Another feast that the hungry hippie isn't invited to. Ash and friends solved a problem that wasn't even really a problem, that would have eventually been solved without their interference at all. It was never Snorlax's fault. Before they even got to this unnamed town, there were probably even more vines clogging the river that the mustache did nothing about. Snorlax saw the problem, ate as much as it could before passing out, and it would have eventually awoken on its own to eat the rest. Snorlax may seemingly represent both sloth and gluttony, but all 7 of the deadly sins are more accurately represented by everyone else. Sloth, gluttony, wrath, greed, lust, envy, and pride. Those were the real obstacles, all of which Snorlax resisted. Its only waking and willful action was to consume the literal thorns that suppressed life from thriving. Who's that Pokemon? A sin eater. There ain't no rest for the wicked, and the good are always slept on. Snorlax isn't a bear, but it does bear their burdens. The episode ends with Snorlax returning to its food coma, knowing that it will eventually have to wake again to eat more of the suffering that is always to be continued.